Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your boy Ryan Morgan, dropping in with another episode of the Recovery Objects podcast. On this podcast, I like to discuss certain topics focused on recovery. Some language or content might be violent in nature. I might say some things that you might not agree with, and that's okay. I will always come forth with non-judgment and integrity. Whatever might be weighing on your heart is only temporary. I will always bring an authentic opinion. As a man in long-term recovery, I am dedicated to the process, and it's not my place to work anyone else's program than my own. I hope you understand this is not just a statewide issue. This is a worldwide issue. If we all can work together to fight these battles, we have enough energy to move mountains. I hope you enjoy the show as much as I did.
Yeah! Let's go, boy!
You are listening to the Recovery Objects podcast, hosted by Ryan Morgan.
One thing that really excites me to talk about is the opioid epidemic and how it's changed and shaped this country into a whole different nation. In 2020, October, a federal judge granted legal immunity to the Sackler family, the owners of Purdue Pharma, stating that they will not face charges for their hands in the opioid crisis. The settlement, worth over $8 billion, occurs more than 2 decades after Purdue Pharma began aggressively marketing OxyContin to an unsuspecting public, and after more than 500,000 people died in just the United States as a result alone. These drugs are highly addictive. They've known to be highly addictive. They have approved them for children as young as 11. These have always been understood as highly addictive pharmaceuticals. They stated early on in OxyContin's first go that only 1% of somebody that was taking the medication would become addicted. And obviously, as we can tell now in 2021, they were obviously false. This addiction is killing very normal, brilliant people. No discrimination necessary. Anyone who becomes addicted to these drugs, it takes a very short period of time for them to overtake the mind. Once they've overtaken the mind, they've overtaken the body. It's hard for each other to communicate. The body can't communicate with the mind. In 2007, the company Purdue pleaded guilty in federal court to understanding OxyContin's addiction risks, yet failing to alert doctors that the painkiller is 2 times stronger than morphine. In 2020, October, the company pleaded guilty to federal charges related to its marketing of opioid products to doctors who were suspected of illegally presenting and abusing OxyContin. The company also admitted to paying doctors to dole out the opioid prescriptions. These were called pill mills. I'm actually very familiar with these. You would go to a pain clinic, get into the pain clinic, give them your false records or whatever you have, and in return they'd be giving you a prescription for opiates. 2007 through 2011 were big years for that. To me, this is drug dealing at its finest. Paying kickbacks to doctors to sell your drug. They would provide lunches for these people. They would provide seminars. They'd provide trainings. There was even memos that would go out saying dollar bills, y'all. Money's all we have in the neighborhood. We have the VP of sales at one of their Christmas parties singing his cover of Shout. Here, take a look. After the company was fined in 2007 for misleading the public about OxyContin addiction risks, Purdue began making $10.7 billion worth of payments for the benefit of the Sackler family members, spanning from 2008 to 2017. Before this, Sackler family members benefited from $1.3 billion in distributions from 95 to 2007. Check this out, though. The Sackler family members have attempted to distance themselves from their company and have denied responsibility for the opioid crisis. They recently launched a website meant to help push back on blame. No Sackler family member has been charged, and the Sackler family vigorously denies any wrongdoing, the website states. This website was made by Richard Sackler, one of the sons, to try to clear the family's name. Check out what Kathy Sackler had to say.
I have tried to figure out, is there anything that I could have done differently, knowing what I knew then, not what I know now? And I have to say, there's nothing that I can find that I would have done differently.
The Sacklers became very important in the 80s when Arthur Sackler started to directly market prescription drugs straight to the doctors instead of the patients. It used to be where they would market them directly to the patient. The patient would then go in seeking the medication for their ailment, speaking with their doctor and working with their doctor. The doctor would provide that medication. They continue to act, though, as if this family is a blue-collar billionaire family. Anytime that they ever represent them, it's always the billionaire family Sacklers. I think, though, when the idea of being targeted and held liable for your hands in the opioid crisis, acknowledgement would be one thing. I can't believe they're trying to deny no blame. It would honestly make me feel better if just a tad bit of acknowledgement was made. Check out how Mr. Sackler answers to his deposition. I guess he doesn't understand the phrase, if you don't know, you don't know.
How much money has Purdue, Frederick, or Purdue Pharma made off the sale of OxyContin?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know, but I just don't know.
They have now been cleared from all charges indefinitely for the future. I think if you were directly benefiting off the sale of inflicting addiction on the world, you should be held liable, answer those charges. Hundreds of thousands of people have been affected by this system, the system that's so dark, broken. Even having Purdue measure its performance in proportion to the strength of the dose it sold, despite allegedly knowing that sustained highest doses of OxyContin risked addiction. Paul Hanley put it best. A leading attorney in the case told The Guardian, "This is essentially a crime family, drug dealers in nice suits and dresses. They have figured out what is criminally acceptable. The Sacklers have put their names on so many things around the country, museums, science departments. They have funded so many things that would take their money to cover up what mess that they've made. Prestigious medical schools have benefited huge from the Sackler family. We all need to take a look at who's funding our roads, bridges, and schools, what mask it takes to continue to drive that into society. This isn't about how bad off and dirty and ugly the systems are, but I do believe that these systems and practices can be changed if we do work together. The fight is just as intense inside the addict's brain and consequenting in many people to lose their battle with this disease and never get the chance to experience their higher self. The Sacklers continue to claim that others had so many hands in the operation. They continue to speak of Purdue in the first person sense. Purdue Pharma was the one that caused this. In 2007, when they were forced to file for bankruptcy, they were also required to relinquish ownership, resolve all of their debt, and make it a public benefit company. They were to deliver $10 billion, $4.3 billion from the Sacklers themselves to help fight the opioid crisis. 400 total civil suits were filed on Purdue Pharma before the bankruptcy. Now, of course, with the immunity, all future lawsuits are void. A company files bankruptcy and then its owners are not held liable. It's bullshit. Most states don't even allow third-party releases, meaning the family is not to be held liable. They decided to move their corporate headquarters to White Plains, New York, where they have never done business. They do not allow third-party releases in most states, but they found one current operating judge in White Plains, New York, that would allow them to do a third-party release. 200 trusts and companies were listed on their protection of companies that should be protected under this bankruptcy. Purdue's main chair lead says this is about the $10 billion. Check this out.
This is a milestone in public health history. Never before have you seen this amount of money, $10 billion, being devoted to opioid abatement. And it's only available through this plan, assuming we can get it approved. And I think when people think about it, they will come around to the notion, well, I might have liked something slightly different, but this is certainly a lot better than going into endless, costly litigation that may end up with no proceeds going to anybody.
They were forced to pay this money, and this is them helping the opioid crisis, even though their pharmaceuticals began it. It disgusts me. IV drug users to this day started on OxyContin. Oxycontin was the first main painkiller allowed to be released to the public. MS Contin was given to hospices. Richard Sackler would rarely wait for his results to come back. He would just go ahead and start producing. The FDA approved children as young as 11 take this medication, and Purdue blamed a lot of people for not taking it correctly. The member of the FDA that actually made Oxycontin go live was shortly released from the FDA and then shortly given a job with Purdue Pharma. They did so much marketing in medical journals. They had politicians behind them, newspaper ads, magazine articles. Back in the day, Arthur Sackler used to market a psychoactive drug that was meant to help anxiety. It was non-effective, but his marketing strategy was super key. 4 times the number of people are using today than 20 years ago. Last year in 2020, 70,000 people died. 900 people a week die from this epidemic. Claiming that this medication would help with social calm. You have to understand these people were in the boardroom. There were so many transcripts of these people from the Sackler family actually conducting business with members of Purdue Pharma. Richard's son, David, gave an interview to Vanity Fair. The website is to depict how the family has helped the opioid crisis. It goes through many different things of how the Sacklers are not guilty of their actions in this epidemic. And when you go onto the website, they didn't even pay for the .com. It's .info. And I can't even tell you what the website is. Honestly, it's not even a big deal. When you go on there, it's just a crock, just a bunch of links that nobody could even understand. We allowed a drug to become so popular, a drug that would mask so many things, especially our emotions, our everyday life. This drug sucked everything from me. This drug took my career, took my house, took my cars. This drug stole everything from me. It is our responsibility to not seek out these desires and these pleasures. Some people need this medication, and some people justify the use of this medication. Us as a community, rise up, work together. We'll have to come together as a nation to design a plan of action. I don't know if many of you have seen downtown Denver lately. When you take a big look at the pharmaceutical companies, it really does get disgusting. There is so many people out there suffering, waiting for that one magic pill to take it all away, to just make everything go away. Some people, they don't know it. It creeps up on them because they think they're doing the right thing. They got it from their doctor. People like myself, seeking it out, that pattern of using opiates, the time that I go out and use, that's the time I bury myself. One time you start, you're never gonna stop. And we all know that as opiate addicts. We're always chasing after something that'll never be there, chasing after our emotions, chasing after ourselves. We lose ourselves in this drug. This drug takes over your mind quickly. This drug will make you do things that you never thought you'd do, things that you're definitely not proud of. Thanks so much for the support. I really appreciate you guys tuning in.